Hi everyone, it's Stacey. Thank you for coming on this yoga leap with me, and welcome to anyone new finding the videos for the first time. Welcome back to anyone who's been practicing with me for a little while. So I have my chair in the background here and a small new little feature, which I'm hoping we'll enjoy, although I do think it's making a little bit of noise. So we're gonna see how this one plays out, this video, and I'll either keep it or remove it for the next few weeks if it sounds too loud in the background. But I've got this fun little fireplace because we're just doing a reno in our house and I had to move it from the basement, and I thought it actually looked quite nice up here. But like I said, if it's too loud and it's too distracting, I will not use it for the next videos coming up. But I wanted to try it today and see what kind of feeling and ambiance it creates for our flow. So like I said, I have my chair. I'm going to start in the chair, and I'm going to use the chair mostly today and try and use it in a few different ways that we normally don't use it in. So like I say quite often, if you can find that beginner mindset and go, oh, I usually don't do this, but I'm going to give it a try this week, I think we might find that we have a little bit of fun with our chair today. I'll also try to offer options for if you are just practicing on your mat to follow along with the poses on the mat. So I'm going to start seated in the chair and we'll get started. I'll meet you back there. Okay, so like I said, I've got my fireplace here. It can emit heat as well, although I don't have the heater on today. Like I said, if the sound quality, if it's really disturbing or distracting in the background, I won't use it next week, but I'm going to give it a try this week because I do like the look and the ambiance and the feeling it's giving the room, and especially right now if you're watching this the week it's uploaded, it's December, it's getting wintry outside, and I like the feeling of the fire. So we'll give it a go. It's all about beginner mindset, like I say quite often. So let's start to settle into our chair, or like I said, if you're practicing on the mat, go ahead and find a comfortable seated position on the mat. If we're in the chair, depending on what type of chair you have, maybe you want to rest your arms on the armrest. If you don't have that like me, you can just rest your hands on your lap, and either on the lap turned up or down, or even maybe just creating a little cradle with the hands and resting them just at the low belly. So whatever feels best. And if you have a seat rest behind you as well, you can use that. We just don't want to sort of slump into the chair. We do want to sit up nice and tall on the sit bones. So having a little bit of activity in the core, helping us sit up nice and tall, that's just going to create a bit more space for breath to flow. So let's roll the shoulders a couple of times and just start to settle into our space here. I tend to always start rolling my shoulders going backwards, maybe to start as well going in the opposite direction. Good. And let's just reposition ourselves here. We'll close the eyes if that feels comfortable. If not, just turn the gaze down towards the floor and rest the gaze on something that's not moving. Something nice and still, just so you can sort of softly focus there. Turning our attention to our breath. Try not to change anything about the breath as we begin our practice. Just notice where it's flowing freely. Maybe notice if it's getting stuck in any areas. This is not about right or wrong, good or bad. We're just noticing the breath. I say it all the time, but I know that the minute I ask you to start thinking about your breath and not change it, it's almost impossible. But that's okay. Let's just take a few breaths here. It's more about trying to put aside thoughts of yesterday, tomorrow, and just try to be here now. We can maybe start to deepen the breath a little bit. Try to inhale and fill all the spaces of the belly. Inhaling like a balloon, filling the spaces of the belly to the side and the front and back, and then continue to inhale, fill the chest. And then exhale, we're going to press that all out. We're going to start to feel everything draw in from the front and sides of our body. Draw back in towards the core. And then inhale to expand in all directions. And exhale. Maybe taking a couple more breaths like this. at your own pace, inhaling to fill belly, ribs, and chest. And exhaling, chest, ribs, and belly. Let's do one more breath here. Inhale. And exhale. All right, if the eyes are closed, maybe just blinking the eyes open, reconnecting with the surroundings, repositioning. And we'll start to bring a bit of movement to our breath. As always, let's inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, we'll sweep them back down. Nice big movements here. Inhale. And exhale. Let's go again. Inhale here. Exhale. Good. This time as we inhale, we'll reach up. Pause at the top. Let's grab right wrist with left hand. Reach, 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 reach on the inhale again. And then exhale, lean over towards the left. So we're thinking about pulling the arm up and over to create a lift and separation down the right side body here. Think about also spinning the heart center towards the front of the room to stay nice and open. So we just don't want to collapse into our chair and not get that nice big opening of side body. Rooting down through the right sit bone here to help us from not tipping off of our chair. I don't know about you, but my chair is pretty flimsy and wobbly. So I have to be very mindful of that, but it actually helps me sort of feel this hip rooting down into the chair. So it's not a bad thing having this little wobbly chair sometimes. Let's stay for another breath. And release, come back up through center. Let's exhale here, roll the shoulders a couple of times in each direction. Good, and then inhale, sweep the arms up. We'll grab onto opposite wrist, lift up and over on the exhale here. So now we're rooting down through the left side, feeling a nice stretch on the left side body and spinning the heart towards the front for this big, nice side body stretch here. All right, let's take an inhale up through center, release. Let's roll the shoulders. Start with the opposite direction that you want to, you naturally want to. Roll them. Okay, now roll them in the way that you naturally want to roll the shoulders. Sometimes we just gotta play and challenge our mind to get out of those habits and those patterns to help us stay present and focused. All right, good. Let's take a wide stance here. We're going to continue with a bit of breath work. We're going to add in a forward fold. Now, if you're more comfortable with the legs together for the forward fold, no problem. I'm just going to separate mine a little bit, partly like I said, because I have this wobbly chair. This is going to help me feel a little more grounded, and really that's what we want. So root down through the feet here. Take a big inhale, sweep the arms up. As we exhale, we're going to hinge forward. Now, if you're in the chair, you can bring your hands to your knees to help support, and you can stay with this flat back, so coming down sort of halfway. If you're on the floor, let's come on up, take an inhale. And then exhale, do it again. If you're on the floor, the legs can be stepped wide along the floor as well. Or maybe you want to get in the chair, or maybe even come up to standing if you are ready for that. Either way, we're gonna inhale and then exhale halfway down. So if you're standing, it might look like this. Inhaling to reach, exhaling, coming halfway down here. So we've got this nice long spine. We can feel the legs working, the knees are soft, and the spine is long. This is how it looks in the chair as well. And if you're seated on the floor, same thing. So it might feel like you can't go quite as far forward because you've got that long back. That's okay, that's what we're aiming for here. Inhale, exhale, find the support on the legs and find that long spine. So it's as if you're reaching forward here. And then inhale one more time. Exhale, let's find that forward fold. Let's stay for a breath. And then maybe let's melt down. So now we can melt down over the legs, between the legs if we're on the floor or the chair, and drop the head. You can shake the head out, yes and no. Take another breath. And then come back up to that halfway mark and then all the way up. Okay, good. Let's roll those shoulders again. And in the other direction. Good. Okay, so we're warming up still with that breath work and a bit of flow, getting the blood moving. Let's come into a warrior on the chair, and we're going to just stretch out the legs. So to start with, we're going to turn in the chair, if we're in the chair, and step into a sort of modified warrior one pose. So let's come up with the toes, come up on the toes here, the legs straight out behind us, and tilt that tailbone under. So you may want to bend the leg a little bit to find that nice tuck in the tailbone. If you're standing, it looks the same. We're just not supported with the chair here, but I'm going to stay in my chair for this one. And then we're going to reach the arms up. Arms can stay reached. They can come down, open up to cactus. If you're standing and you feel more stable with hands on hips, do that as well. Just tuck the tailbone under here. Let's stay for a few breaths. This is our warrior one. Modified warrior one, because we're up on our toes in the back, remember. Good, let's inhale here, stretch the leg out as straight as we can, and then bend the knee, maybe bend the arms. So we're bending that back leg and just getting a little bit of motion going here. Inhale to straighten and reach. Exhale, bending through the back leg. It might feel like a small motion, especially if you're standing as well. You're working on balance and movement. So just feeling the leg work a little bit. Balance up on the toe. One more breath here. I'm going to sit back down in my chair for this last one. Good, let's inhale, reach up. As we exhale this time, let's bring the arms behind. See if we can clasp our knuckles and reach the knuckles down. We can stay nice and lifted here, or we can choose to bow forward over the front leg. I'm going to choose to stay up. I'm suffering with a little bit of a sinus pressure in my head, and it's giving me a little headache to bend forward, but know that the option is there. Otherwise, just reaching the knuckles down, opening up through the front side body here for 3, 2, and 1. Good, let's release. Come on up. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, release the hands down. And then we're going to bring the back leg in, come around to the front. Let's take a couple of breaths in the front here before we go to the next side. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. You can come down halfway or all the way, whatever feels best. Like I said, that's giving my head a little bit of pressure, so I'm not going to come all the way down. If you're folding forward, shake the head out, yes and no. And then come all the way back up. Inhale. Exhale the hands through heart center. So actually, I'm going to move to the other side here. So I'm just going to move my chair over a little bit, make room for my leg to stretch out through the back. Switching sides, stepping the opposite leg out back, staying up on the toes for this modified warrior one, turning the hips to the front. We're either supported by the chair or we're standing up on the mat. So let's inhale, reach the arms up. Remember, if the shoulders are not wanting to have the arms straight, we can always come into our cactus arms, or we can have the hands on the hips for balance, or even if you are balancing on the floor, just reach the hands straight out to the side. That works too. Find the warrior one for a couple of breaths in stillness. And then let's start to move with our breath. So inhale, really reach through the back leg, reach the arms up, and then exhale, bend the arms, bend the leg. Just creating a bit of movement through the hip flexors. Inhale to reach up, exhale, open up. Good. Let's do one more here. Inhale to reach up, keep that leg long. Exhale, bring the hands behind, clasp the opposite finger in front. So whatever you naturally want to clasp, do the opposite. Reach the knuckles down, and same thing on this side. Option to stay up and lifted like me, or bow forward towards the inside of the thigh, finding that humble warrior. I'm gonna stay up again. Like I said, too much pressure in my face for that. I just like to give the options. Staying for 3, for 2, and 1. Come on up if you've bowed forward. Inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale the hands through center. Help reposition us around to the front. Good, we'll take a few rounds of cat-cow here. So if you're standing or seated, cat-cow, we just want to pull the heart space through, find a bit of a sort of a lift and opening through the front side body, and then exhale, round down. You can even sort of push into the thighs to help splay the shoulder blades. If you need to make a bit of room behind your chair, just scooch forward there. That might help you. And just root down through the feet. Inhale to lift, and exhale, round through the spine. Let's do a couple more rounds here. All right, one more round. And then we'll come back to seated. We're going to do a couple of things standing with the chair here. So this is what I mean, how I don't usually, this is a little different to come out of the chair, and we're going to use the chair as a prop, as we always do, but just in a little bit of a different manner here. So I'm only moving my chair around because I need to stay in the frame. You can, of course, just walk around your chair as needed to come into these postures. So we just want to get a bit more opening and stretch through the arms, maybe just open up through the chest a little bit. So we're going to come into a half forward fold. So from your chair, hands on the chair if you're using the chair for support. Mine's a little bit off the mat. There we go. And we're just going to take a little bit of a step back so that when we start to bend forward, and we may have to adjust this stance, we're trying to create a nice sort of 90-degree angle here as we start to lean forward. And depending on how we're feeling through our shoulders after a little bit of our warm-up, we might even be able to come deeper through the shoulders. So just playing with that stance, you may need to come more forward. You may need to step a little further back from your chair. And we're just creating this big long L. So we feel a little bit of stretch down the back of the legs as well, a little bit of softness in the knees. This is a little bit like a modified downward dog. If you prefer downward dog on the mat, go ahead, place the hands down, send the hips up towards the ceiling. Let's just stay here, find a few rounds of breath. You can even sort of walk the dog out before we settle in for a bit of stillness. Once you've settled in and you find your depth in the stretch, let's stay in stillness for 3, for 2, and 1. Good, let's lift on up. Let's step that right foot forward a little bit. Now we're going to come into a sort of modified triangle. So we may need to open the feet up a little bit so that they're on train tracks, not parallel. That's going to help with balance. You can choose to hold on to the chair still for support, or bring hands to hips if you're not using the chair. Wherever we are, we're going to take a big inhale and then hinge forward, coming into our pyramid pose. So we're going to feel a bit more stretch down this front leg, and maybe even that front right hip as well. Try to square the hips off. Again, you're either using the chair for support, or maybe you're using core strength and hands on hips. Square the hips off. Make any adjustments you need. Maybe you need to take a little bit further step back. That helps with balance. You can do that. We just change the stretch a little bit by stepping that foot forward. And we're just going to stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Good, let's lift up. Let's step both feet up to the chair here. We'll take a few rounds of breath, and then we'll go to the other side. Good, take another round. Inhale. Good. Let's reposition. We'll do a minute or so with both legs back out again. So step both legs back. We'll find that downward dog modification. Walk the dog for a couple of steps, and then settle in. Find a few rounds of breath. Pull the belly in. Feel the legs supporting us, the belly, and just kind of melt through the shoulders here. And that's true if you're on the floor in your downward dog. Send those hips up towards the sky, melt through the arms, and stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Let's come on up. And as we're coming up, let's step that left foot forward and make any adjustments to the width of the feet again, so that you're not on, you're not parallel. You got a bit of space and you're more on train tracks. Send the hips square to the front. Either find the chair for support or hands on hips. Take a big inhale here and then fold forward. Now we're in that pyramid pose with still stretching down the back of the legs. It's just changed a little bit as we change the stance. Square the hips up. So send that left hip back, right hip forward. Try to have that flat back. Pull the belly in and stay for 3. For 2. And 1. Good. Let's come on up. Step up to the chair here. Let's just shake it out. Swing the arms. All right, so still using the chair as some support, I'm just going to turn the chair around here. So again, position yourself so that you can maybe step up onto your chair. It might be sideways, forwards, whatever works. And we're going to see if we can lift our foot up onto the chair. So making sure your chair is nice and stable. We're just going to come into a lunge here. So foot up on the chair. Or if you prefer to do this on the floor, I'll get to you in just a minute. And using the chair as support, we're just going to send those hips forward and feel a bit of a stretch down the hip flexors. Now, option here is to, like I said, be on the floor. I'll just demonstrate that. If you're already on the floor, step that right foot forward, send the hips forward. This might feel better for you. You might be able to get in a little deeper if you're on the floor. I just wanted to offer the option in the chair. So finding your option, I'm going to come back to the chair because I want it to be a bit of a challenge for me. It does feel different in the chair for me, and I like that. Just a little different here. Making sure your chair is nice and sturdy. So if your chair feels wobbly at all, maybe put it up against the wall. And here we're just going to hold and stay for 3, feeling that hip flexor stretch. For 2 and 1. Now either from the floor or the chair, can we start to send the hips back, lean over the front leg. So now we're getting a back of the leg stretch on the front leg. So using the chair for support or hands on hips. If you're on the floor, I'll show a couple of options. You've come from your hip flexor stretch into this hamstring stretch. Hands can be down low. Maybe they're up on blocks to help elevate you a little bit. We don't want to rest our hands on the knees though. So just be mindful of that. I'm coming back up to my chair. Again, just showing the options for the floor. Let's settle in here for our hamstring stretch, flexing the toes up to our face for 3, for 2, and 1. Good. Let's start to come back forward. So we're in that little hip flexor stretch again, just for a moment, and then send it back. So let's move a little bit between the two, creating a little bit of heat. Good. Let's do one more. And next time you come forward, just pause, sink into the hip flexor stretch for a moment, and then we're going to make our way to standing. So for me, I feel a bit locked in this position. I may need to just send the hips back a little bit so I can press off the chair and step down. Good, shake it out. And before we move to the next side, let's stretch out that calf muscle on the right. So again, you could be beside your chair, in front of your chair. I'm just going to use the back of my chair. And I'm going to step the right foot back. We'll send the heel down towards the floor and just lean into the chair for support and feel that calf muscle stretch down the right side. So we're stretching the back lower leg of the right here. Good. Stay for another breath. Inhale here. Exhale. Good. Let's step up, see if we can maybe even lift that right foot and grab onto the ankle. Now we're going to come into a quad stretch. So just switching sides here so we can see. Ooh, it's a little complicated doing this chair dance. So we want to have a little quad stretch happening. So we're not doing dancer's pose. We're not trying to kick our leg back up towards the ceiling. We're trying to keep the legs nice and together here, knee pointing down, stretching the front of the quad. So lots of stretches for our legs today. If it helps, think about rotating the pelvis under, squeezing the bum, feeling that quad stretch. Quad is the front of the leg muscle here. So still stretching out that right leg. Stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Good. Let's lower that foot down. Just shake it all out. All right. We're going to go to the other side. So I am just going to keep my chair on this side, just so I am not blocking the view. And we're going to go to the other side. So now we want to step the opposite foot in front or up on the chair. So I'm going to step my left foot up onto the chair here, and we're going to sink into that hip flexor stretch. Remember, you can be doing this on the ground and maybe coming up on the toes a little bit here and tilting the pelvis under a little bit. That helps create a bit of room. Now I do find that on the chair like this, I can't quite get as deep, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm doing this for the new experience, the feeling of newness in my brain and going, oh, this is different. But you might be on the floor, sink into the hip flexor stretch. Make sure your chair is nice and secure. Stick it up against a wall if it feels a little wobbly. And we'll stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Now let's start to send the hips back and use the chair, the floor, or blocks to help sink in and find that hamstring stretch. Flex the toes up towards the face. We don't want to lean on our knee though, so make sure we're using the floor or whatever props we have to help us. Square off the hips by drawing that back hip forward. Flex the toes up towards the face, hinging at the hips here for 3, for 2, and 1. And just like before, we're going to flow a little bit. So slowly start to bend to that front leg a bit. And then send the hips back. Flex the toes up towards the face. And again. Good. We'll do another round here. And when you come forward the next time, just stay for a breath. And then again, I feel a bit locked, so I just sort of need to unlock the hips a little bit so I can step off the chair and take that left foot that we've just taken off the chair, send it all the way back, and send the heel down towards the floor. Stretch out the calf muscle, so the lower back part of the leg. Stretch that calf muscle out on the left. For 3, for 2, and 1. Good. Step on up and see, oh, I'm just going to switch my chair again here. See if we can draw the left ankle up into our hand and find that quad stretch. So knees together, knee pointing down, send the pelvis forward. Whoops, I forgot my fireplace there, I just kicked it. And find that quad stretch, so front of the leg for 3, 2, and 1, and release. Good. Let's just shake it all out. Step wide, maybe windshield wiper again. And then we're going to make our way back down to our seat. And we'll come into some figure 4 stretching for the hips. So we've done a bit of stretching on the front, the backs of the legs, including the calves. We've worked the hips a little bit on the front. Let's do those back and side. So you might be on the ground. You can do this seated, standing, or lying down. We're coming into our figure 4. So we're going to lift the right leg, flex the toes, and cross it over our left knee here. And depending on where you are, whether you're seated or lying down, this might be enough. If you're looking for a little bit more and you're seated, hands can rest on the knee and ankle, and you can start to fold forward. You'll immediately start feeling a bit more sensation in the stretch on the outside here. Just find the fold that gives you the stretch you're looking for. If you are lying on the ground, of course, we'd be reaching through the legs and drawing the legs in towards the chest. If you're standing, you can sink into the legs and fold forward as well. It challenges the balance quite a bit. And we're just going to stay here and stretch out that hip for 3, for 2, and 1. Good. Let's come on up, and we're going to add a little twist in here. So cross the leg in even tighter. If you're on the floor, cross the legs in tight. Let the knees fall over. If you've got the right leg on top, let them fall over to the left. And if you're seated in the chair here, we're going to cross that right leg in nice and tight. So squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. If you're standing, you may even be able to get those toes behind your calves. I just find in the chair, it sort of inhibits that a little bit. We can all take a big inhale, and then exhale. We're just going to find a gentle twist. Twist towards the bent leg here. You may want to cross that left arm over the body just to help guide the twist a little bit. And you might want to use the back of the chair to help guide the twist. So as we're guiding our twist, we don't want to yank it too much, but we can certainly just put a little pressure. Press the hand into the leg into the hand. You'll feel the twist deep in here. Let's stay for 3. Inhale and exhale. For 2. And 1. Let's unravel, come around to the front, maybe just lean over for a little counterbalance. And then we're going to uncross the legs, step them wide a little bit. We're going to do a couple of folds just before we go to the next side. Inhale here. Exhale, forward fold. You can come halfway down or all the way down, hands to the floor or blocks if you like. Again, that's just giving my head a little bit too much pressure. Feel free to melt down though. And then when you're ready, let's roll all the way back up. Step the feet back in, and we'll cross the left ankle over right knee this time, settling into our figure 4, either on the mat, standing, or seated in the chair here. So let's get that leg cross, flex the foot. You can either stay upright or start to hinge forward until you feel a nice stretch. The depth of the stretch is up to you. How deep do you want to go? Hinging forward, maybe melting down over the legs, whatever feels best. And staying for 3, 2, and 1. Let's come on up. Good. Let's cross the legs in tighter. So again, if you're standing, you might be able to really get that top left leg behind the right. If you are seated, cross those legs over, let the legs fall over towards the right. And if you're seated with me here, we're going to inhale and then exhale, twist. So again, grabbing onto the back of the chair, pressure against the arm and leg in the front to help deepen the twist here. And we're going to stay for 3, for 2, and 1. Good. Come around to the front, uncross the legs. And this time, if you're on the ground, you come into a happy baby, bringing sort of the feet up towards the ceiling and drawing the knees in towards the armpits. If you're in the chair, we can do another forward fold, legs nice and wide. And if you're seated, I'm going to join you on the floor and come into a butterfly this time, where we're going to bring the soles of the feet together. I mean, option on the floor as well, just like in the chairs, to have the feet nice and wide. I'm going to come into butterfly. We're working on inner thighs no matter what position we're in. Take a big inhale here. Fold forward with a long back. Maybe the elbows press into the knees. Maybe massage the feet. Maybe you just wanted to walk the hands forward and start to melt and roll down into a soft forward fold, rounded spine. And stay for 3, for 2, And 1. Okay, if you're in happy baby, let the feet go. If you're in your butterfly, come on up, draw the knees in. If you're on the ground on your back already, step the feet wide. And if you're seated, lean back and we'll just windshield wiper the knees from side to side. If you're in the chair, same thing. Just sort of rock the knees from side to side. And then come through center. Good. Now we're going to come into a bridge. So a couple of options. If you're on the ground lying on your back, you can come into a bridge. If you are seated on the ground, we can come into a reverse tabletop where the feet are planted, knees are bent, hands behind us, and we're going to lift the hips up off the ground like this. And if you're in the chair, a nice option for this would be, again, making sure your chair is nice and stable, scooching to the edge of the chair, planting the hands on the chair, feet on the floor, and then we can lift the hips up this way. So wherever you are, take a minute to settle in, and we'll all come into a nice bridge or back bend together. So I'm going to stay in my chair here. Hands are planted on the floor or the chair. Roll the shoulders back, open up that heart space, press into the hands and feet, lift the hips, open up, squeeze the bum and stay for 3. Keep breathing for 2. Keep breathing, squeeze the bum, lift, lift, lift. Last breath here. And lower everything down. Good. Curl into a little ball if you're on the ground and fold forward over the legs if you're in the chair. And then we're going to roll up. And we're going to make our way into a final Shavasana. I'm just going to turn my chair to the front here for you. I feel like I've been moving the chair around a lot. That's okay. It's all part of it. So whether you're in the chair, seated, or lying on the ground, let's take a few moments to settle in here. Again, depending on the type of chair you have, settling in, using the back for support, using the arms for support if you have it. If not, hands rest in your lap, either palms turned down or turned up, or resting just in a little cup at the bottom of your belly here, whatever feels best for you. Take a few minutes to just settle into the breath, settle into the softness of the pose, and start to scan your body. Just noticing if there are any areas you're still holding on to any tension, and maybe just breathe a little loving kindness that way. So you can't just let it go and just soften there for the next few moments. Shavasana is the time for our physical and energetic bodies to absorb all that good work we just did and turn it into something magical. It's a time for integration and rest. And know that rest is different from sleep, and that we need both every day. And we should never pass up an opportunity to just rest and do nothing. And of course, the beauty of practicing through the lens is if you want or need to stay in Shavasana any longer, by all means press play or let the video play out and stay exactly as you are. If your day or evening is calling to you and you need to move, start to wiggle through fingers and toes, maybe circle wrists and ankles. And you can choose to stretch along or curl into a little ball one more time, just before making your way up to a comfortable seated position. And when we get there, let's all take a big breath together. Inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale the hands through heart center. Hands can stay in prayer. They can rest over your heart or simply laying them back down in your lap, wherever you feel most comfortable. I want to thank you so much for allowing me into your personal private yoga practice spaces. And I can't wait to practice with you again here next week. Thanks until then, take care. Thanks, everyone. I hope that felt a little different. I'm curious to know how the fireplace was for you. I know it's a subtle thing, but let me know in the comments if you have any questions or concerns about the fireplace, the noise in particular. I'm hoping it sounds okay. Until next week, take care. Bye.